Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I'm also a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about expressions that women make towards men they're attracted to or attractive men. And I think this is very important because a lot of men, men are more direct, I noticed, than women. They're more initiative, they're more, I guess, leader like than women. And women are more passive and submissive and they are more indirect than men. And I think this is actually a lot of the clash between men and women, at least when they're married or when they're in more of a deep connection with one another, because one person might be very direct and the other person might be very indirect. And it creates a lot of issues with the relationship. But in actuality, I think this is just the way it works typically, not all the time, but I think it makes it also confusing in a dating sense. And I don't think that's talked about nearly as much as maybe I think it should be. I'm not sure, but that's kind of the aim of this video. Women, if they're attracted to you, a lot of them are not going to initiate. And I know that frustrates a lot of men, and I can completely appreciate and understand that. I think it's helpful if women can be a little bit more direct at some point, sure. But the reality is it's probably going to still take some time for women to get more comfortable with that. And so I think it's important that you can at least understand and distinguish between maybe expressions that women make. A lot of these are going to be more like, I guess, micro expressions, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about the research in a little bit. But the expression she makes towards attractive men versus obviously men she doesn't find attractive. And actually, the bottom line is if a woman does not find you attractive, which I think people might be offended by this, but it's true, she just often ignores you. And so if there is any sort of, we'll talk about the details of it, but there's any sort of exchange that's more open or warm towards you, there's at least something. There's something. Maybe it's friendly, maybe it's attraction, but there is something because usually women just ignore men they don't really find attractive. However, there are more specific expressions that women make towards men she finds attractive, which is what we're going to talk about. And the research does show that these expressions, Ekman's research, okay, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, is these expressions are typically shown in a short window of time. They're often involuntary, and involuntary expressions reveal genuine emotions. They usually last between, they're definitely less than a minute. Typically, they can last a little bit further, but they're small. They're definitely short. And while they can show in attraction, it is important to remember that context does matter. And you need typically more than one single social or emotional cue, behavioral cue. And so usually we want to see that attraction is a cluster of these behaviors, not just one isolated cue. So I do want you guys to understand that. And so that's really important. I want you to keep that in mind. But the research does show, his work shows that these expressions are very brief facial expressions that reflect true emotion. They are involuntary and they are universal across cultures. Happiness, disgust, fear, attraction, lust, safety, warmth, relaxation. These types of emotions you can see by these micro expressions more often than we can categorize or characterize verbally. So the first expression that shows attraction is going to be the softening of eyes. Her gaze might be more relaxed. It might be more warmed. It might be focused on you compared to how she looks at others. This one is a comparative expression. Most of them are, but I think the reason why I bring this up is because every person, how their eyes look when it's softened, it's not always tellable unless you compare it to how they look at someone else. But if anyone is in a long-term relationship, you guys probably know how your significant other's eyes look when they feel softened and they feel kind of safe and warm with you. It is a gaze, but it is a very soft gaze, and it's hard for me to really describe it other than their eyebrows just seem a little bit less, I guess, angled inward. Perhaps is a better way to put it. So the brows are more softened, the eyes are more softened as well. A more looser type of look, more focused. It's focused on you, but it's not acute and sharp. It's not like harsh, but really warm towards you. It's inviting. Okay. The next one is head tilting, and it's usually tilting while looking at you. It could be even in conversations. Now, the tricky part is some people do this if they are naturally charismatic, but it does signal interest and attentiveness. And often if someone is doing this, even if they're not talking to you, actually, especially if they're not talking to you and just kind of looking at you, maybe tilting your head, this one is actually really obvious. I didn't even realize how obvious this one is. But now that I think about it, it's very, very obvious when I'm really reflecting on like, all of my friends and people I know, they do this when they like somebody. When they like a guy, they do this even like from a distance. And so if she's looking at you and tilting her head, she's definitely signaling interest and that she's attracted to you. I wish I had more emphasis on this one, but I don't know how to express it. But that one's a really big one. Okay. The next one is mirroring your expressions. If you smile, she will mirror it very quickly. She'll react in sync with your expressions, and it shows that connection and engagement. And research does show that part of the reason that she's doing this is because she's focused on thinking about you. So it's not always voluntary, as I think is important to keep in mind, because she has a lot of focus on you. You're on her mind. The only example that I have right now that I'm thinking of, and I don't know if this will help, but if you guys are like, when you're watching TV or anything like that, there are advertisements, right? Sometimes that advertisement will be on your mind. And so you might be thinking about it. An advertisement that's been recently playing a lot on my, anything I'm watching is like this new Pilates program thing. It's like everywhere. And because of that, I keep thinking about like Pilates or like getting more gym attire or things like that. And I don't even do Pilates that often. But it's like on my mind. I think about it a lot just because I'm seeing it. And this is kind of the same thing because you're on her mind, your expressions and what you're doing, she's just thinking about it so much that it comes up so naturally for her. I don't know if that example made sense, but like that's kind of what advertisements do. It makes you think about it a lot. It's the same thing with mirroring expressions. The next one is she raises her eyebrows when she sees you. It's a very quick eyebrow lift, and it can signal recognition and excitement. I think this is really important, the excitement portion. Usually she's pretty excited to see you, and you'll see this with just not her eyebrows, but kind of her bodily reactions. It's going to be more uplifted as well. The next one is a genuine smile that engages both the mouth and the eyes. The research kind of said like a slight crinkling of the corners of the eyes, just a slight one. I don't know if that works with all facial profiles, but that was something that was put in there. So I think it's important to bring that up to you guys. The next one is that she looks at you, she looks away, and then she looks again. That pattern is what we saw. And why I think this is important is it does show gazing is also one of them. So there are kind of two ways to look at it. Gazing and then also looking at you, looking away, and then looking again. Because if somebody breaks looking away and they keep it broken, that could signal disinterest or just looking at you. But if she looks again, it does signal that she's trying to get your attention. And so those are some of the reasons, but I want to touch on a pattern that we saw. The research is in the description box for all the stuff that I use. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this pattern, the behavioral cluster, I want to talk about because there is about 3 different types of research. A lot of these are older because they're fundamental research. One of them is like 1990 or 82. So the most fundamental one is a lot older. But the reason why I bring this particular one up is behavioral clusters is very important. The behaviors together show a strong evidence of attraction, multiple signals in context at once. And so all of these together can really show attraction. So it's going to be like a consistent eye contact, genuine smile, open posture towards you. You'll see asking personal questions, making time to be with you, and positive emotional reactions. And this is after she shows those micro expressions. So once you show those expressions and you talk to her and you start seeing her do these behavioral clusters, that's how you know she really does like you, even if you don't see all of them. And at that point, you can kind of initiate and make your move. So I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.